Okay, we have a long answer problem here regarding some fluorine-based compounds. So some binary compounds that form between fluorine and various nonmetals are listed here. And so this student has this hypothesis here that the number of fluorine atoms that will bond to a nonmetal is always equal to 8 minus the number of valence electrons in the nonmetal atom. So that seems to work here because carbon has 4 valence electrons. 8 minus 4 is 4, 4 fluorines. Nitrogen has 5 valence electrons. 8 minus 5 is 3, 3 fluorine atoms. Oxygen has 6, so we get 2. Neon has 8. 8 minus 8 is 0, so no compound will form. Silicon is like carbon. Phosphorus is like nitrogen. Sulfur is like oxygen, right? They're analogs. They're just one period below. And then again, argon is like neon, no compound. So that seems to make sense. That seems to be a reasonable hypothesis given the data. And so based on the student's hypothesis, what should be the formula of the compound that forms between chlorine and fluorine? So chlorine has 7 valence electrons. So according to this model, 8 minus 7 is 1. So chlorine would bond with 1 fluorine atom. So that would be ClF. Right, that's a chlorine right there. ClF. That would be the compound according to this hypothesis. Now, in an attempt to verify the hypothesis, the student researches the fluoride compounds of the other halogens, so chlorine, bromine, iodine, and finds the formula ClF3. So we want to be able to draw a complete Lewis electron dot diagram for a molecule of ClF3. So chlorine is the central atom. As we said, chlorine has 7 valence electrons, and it needs to make 3 bonds to fluorine. Now, fluorine likes to make 1 bond, right? Fluorine also has 7 valence electrons. So with 7 valence electrons, it can have 3 lone pairs and 1 bond. So if chlorine is gonna use 3 of its valence electrons to make 3 bonds, 1 to each fluorine, then we're going to end up with 2 lone pairs, right? So we've got fluorine, 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 and then lone pair, and then lone pair. So we do have to be able to draw this. Oh, let's also make sure for these ones, definitely when you're doing these Lewis diagrams, make sure you get all the lone pairs on the other atoms too. They do want to see that. If you did not write all these lone pairs on the fluorine atoms, you would not get full credit. So obviously, it's very important to know what's going on with the central atom. So chlorine has 7 valence electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 3 of them go to make those 3 single covalent bonds. We've got 2 lone pairs. Then don't forget the fluorines as well. So that's the Lewis diagram. We're not showing the geometry. We're just showing the bonding, right? What's going on with the electron domains. Now, 2 possible geometric shapes for this molecule are trigonal planar and T-shaped. So let's actually just draw those. So trigonal planar would be, so we've got 5 electron domains, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 atoms, 2 lone pairs. So it's going to be trigonal bipyramidal. That's going to be the electron domain geometry. So what we can do is we can either have it like this, and let's use these dash and wedge bonds. So that would look like this, and then we'd have a lone pair above and below. So this would be the trigonal planar. So what this means here is pretend it's like this plane perpendicular to the screen, right? These 2 atoms are in the screen. This one's in front of the screen. This one's behind the screen. So it's like this, right? It's like looking edge on a piece of paper, and the lone pair above and below. So that's the trigonal planar. But we can also have this. We can have this T-shaped, and then a lone pair here and a lone pair here. So these would be occupying the positions where we have the dash and wedge bond over here. So you can think of them as kind of jutting out and jutting in. But the point is, this is T-shaped, this is trigonal planar, and these both are possible, right? But it says that the student does some research and learns that the molecule has a dipole moment. It is polar overall. Which of the 2 shapes is consistent with the fact that the ClF3 molecule has a dipole moment? So Chlorine-fluorine bonds are a little bit polar, right? Because fluorine is so electronegative. And so if we do this, right, there, it's going towards the fluorine. Now, the thing here is that these all cancel out, right? When we have a trigonoplanar molecule, if all the bonds are equally polar, when you add up the vectors, they add up to 0. So there's actually no net dipole moment. But over here, we've got up, down, and this way. So these two cancel each other out, which means there is a net dipole this way. So this is the one. This is the structure that would allow for a dipole moment. So that must be the geometry of the molecule there. In an attempt to resolve the existence of the ClF3 molecule with the hypothesis stated above, the student researches compounds that form between halogens and fluorine and assembles the following list. So here, let's go. They didn't write it in because you have to figure it out, but ClF and ClF3, right? Let me write that 3 a little more clearly. Okay, so F2, fluorine with itself is diatomic, right, in elemental form. Then ClF, ClF3, BRF, BRF3, BRF5, IF, IF3, IF5, IF7. So based on concepts of atomic structure and periodicity, propose a modification to the student's previous hypothesis to account for the compounds that form between halogens and fluorine. So when we're talking about atomic structure, we are noticing that all of the compounds, right, not fluorine, elemental fluorine, but all of the compounds have an odd number of fluorine atoms, right? We're saying that we're noticing an odd number of fluorine, right? And this has to do with the electron configurations, right? These all have 7 valence electrons, and so they're always going to have an odd number of bonds so that they can retain lone pairs, or have 0 lone pairs for IF7. But ClF would have 1 bond and 3 lone pairs. ClF3 has 3 bonds and 2 lone pairs. BRF5 would have 5 bonds and 1 lone pair. IF7 would have no lone pairs. It would just have each of its 7 electrons is making its own single covalent bond. So for atomic structure, what we're noticing this trend of odd numbers of fluorine atoms. Now, in terms of periodicity, what we're saying is that as atomic number increases, the number of F atoms increases, right? So going down the group, we've got chlorine, and then bromine is bigger, and iodine is even bigger. And so as atomic number increases, right, we're getting an additional shell each time. And with each additional shell, we can accommodate a greater number of fluorine atoms. So this has to do with orbitals, right? We're talking about having access to d orbitals, larger and larger orbitals. The larger the shell, the more groups that can be coordinated, because we're getting farther and farther away from the nucleus, right? When we're talking about very small atoms, right, like carbon and nitrogen and things like that, those actually can't even break an octet. They cannot expand their octet because those groups are so close to the nucleus. We cannot fit any more coordination around there. But once we have access to d orbitals, and then even larger d orbitals, and then even larger d orbitals, there's a possibility for a greater amount of coordination of other groups. So the atomic structure, we're noticing the trend of only odd numbers of fluorine atoms. And then for periodicity, as the atomic number increases, going down the group, the number of fluorine atoms that can be bound to the central atom also increases. So we can have the smaller numbers, right? IF, IF3, but also IF5, and then IF7. This has to do with the larger atom, which has to do with greater atomic number. So that's a pretty interesting one about some of these fluorine compounds.